Myself, your host, Sukhi Wahiwala. So today, I have to say, I had the unbelievable, good fortune to have a lovely conversation with Teresa very shortly. Now, just to read her name out, she has an MBE. I am graced with probably, and I'm knowing so, not probably, I'm absolutely really honoured and humbled to have Teresa with us today. She's truly enlightened me earlier on when we were talking, and the actual conversation we're having we're going to be touching on it in a moment as well. You know the drill. It's 26 minutes, 4-minute break, 26 minutes, and then end of the show. It's never enough, is it? So, today, let me introduce Teresa Esan MBE. That is a royal honour from the Queen herself for works outstandingly in community help and to assist individuals. When I'm telling you, this young lady has assisted thousands of people back into work, it'll be an understatement. When I share this, is just before her body of work was completed. I'm not going to take that away from her, but she's assisted thousands of individuals to get back into their own mindset, mind frame, clearing their identity of themselves, and actually getting involved back into society and work, rehabilitating themselves back into work after being completely shunned out of a job, knowing they were going to lose it and possibly be at an age where they wouldn't necessarily be able to go straight into another job. And in addition to that, we're going to introduce our humbling guest, Teresa. Welcome, Teresa.
Thank you very much, Salaam, and thank you everybody in Peterborough. Hello.
No problems at all. Now, I know you're a little nervous, but don't worry. Everybody here is listening and we're all together. It's about the team, isn't it, just?
Yes.
So, Teresa, wow, is all I'm going to say. This is an empowerment hour. Boy, is everybody going to get an empowerment today. The energy, the vibrancy, the sturdiness that you deliver today in the conversation is going to be unbelievable. Now, a little touch about yourself, if you don't mind. Would you mind just giving a little bit of conversation around maybe your background? Because when we were talking just earlier on, I was genuinely, and I think the audience and the listeners will guaranteed to be a little surprised, but also very, very humbled by the sheer fact of you being a child who's gone through that journey that you went through as a child. May I just ask, if I can, a little bit about your background?
Yes, certainly. I'm of Nigerian parentage, so I was born in the 60s, and it wasn't in London. My parents came over to the UK from Nigeria to study, so they both met here. My father was training to be an accountant, my mother was training to be a midwife, and they met each other. He saw her, she saw him, they fell in love, and then 3 children later. It wasn't uncommon in the 60s for children to be fostered. And when I say fostered, I mean it in a commercial way, not through social services. So
just to touch there, sorry, and I'm aware that some of the audience would actually understand what we just said there. In this day and age, post 1970s, mid 70s, fostering of children would be considered as a social services activity, and if I'm correct, and kind of controlled and maintained through the system. And so you're talking about mid 1970s, 60s and 70s, and you said fostering was a private entity?
Yeah, it was quite common in the African community because a lot of people of African descent came over here to study. So whilst they were studying and they married and they had children, they did what they would do in Africa. You would have children brought up by extended family, so that would be normal to them. So what they did whilst they were continuing with their studies is to enter into commercial arrangements with families to bring up their children. And I would say about 6 out of 10 Nigerians that were born in that era would have been fostered.
Wow, as high as that?
Yes.
6 out of 10.
Yes.
This is something that I was absolutely bowled over by earlier on, because I think it's just an amazing, you could say, principle or a journey that could be taking place. And so please continue. Yes. So 6 out of 10 Nigerian children possibly could be as high as that were actually being fostered. Yeah.
So I was fostered as a baby, so I can't remember my first foster parent, but I remember my last foster family I went to at the age of 2, and I stayed with them until I was 11, and that was in Hampshire.
And then they basically, did you stay with them to the end of your current sort of like midlife, etc.?
I stayed with them from the age of 2 to 11 full time, and would come and visit my birth parents during the Christmas and summer holidays in London.
So 2 times a year approximately?
Twice a year, I think I'd stay with them. And I stayed with my foster parents till I was 11, and then my parents took the family back to Nigeria when I was about to start secondary school. So I spent my secondary school formative years in Nigeria, and then came back to my foster parents.
Wow, back into the UK.
Yeah.
Now, I'm just saying, thank you very much for sharing this personal journey with yourself, because for me it was something very new to understand, and I'm just so in awe that what you've achieved, and such a beautiful person as you are within yourself.
Bless you.
Thank you. Within yourself as well, and how capable you are as an individual, and how balanced to an extent that I see, but you have a different version of that when you said to me about identity earlier on. But I don't agree with that comment. I believe that you have a very clear identity of who you are for the external people to see, and not in a pompous way, in a very humble way. So in context of this, if I can, just understand. So you've kind of spent 11 years of your life in the UK, and then you've gone for 5 years, you said?
5 years, yes, to Nigeria.
To Nigeria?
Yes.
And were you with your own family there as well?
I was, so I stayed, and I think most children went to boarding school, but because I think we weren't very familiar with the society, my parents made a decision to keep us as day students, which I'm grateful for. So it was just short 5 years, and then I came back, but it was a bit of a culture shock because I'd never been there before, and it was very different because that was the first time that I was living permanently within the Nigerian community. I was used to a village in Hampshire where there weren't many black people, to be honest, apart from the foster children. Yeah.
So you would have picked up a Hampshire accent.
Yes, so I was told. Well, I think I met a lot of children who'd come from London, and we all sort of moved together, but most of them were born and bred in London, and I think I was the first black person with a country accent, as I had then. So I think I was a bit, of an oddball then. Yeah.
So we were talking about a couple of weeks ago with a gentleman called Jussa, and he had a very similar, he had a similar story in the context of, he would call it a mixed journey or mixed experience. Now, you had, if I could just share, if you don't mind, if I can just expand a little bit more for yourself or with us, for the audience to hear, that there was a kind of, would we have said that would have been a slight identity merger? Or, would you have been the same? Would you have felt the same as your friends within your circles at that particular time? You said you had a different accent for a start.
Yeah, I think in most of the communities I've grown up, apart from when I was an adult, I've always felt different from everybody else. Obviously, if you grow up in a village in Hampshire, and I had very good foster parents and a very good foster family, but you're still black, you're still different, and that they're not your real parents. Your real parents are somewhere else, and you go back to Nigeria, you're again different because you're not like everybody else that's around you, and even within the community of children who'd all come back to Nigeria, I was still different again. Wow. And then I went back to the village for my A-levels, and I remember being told then that I'd picked up a slight accent. Not that there was anything wrong with that, but yes, I think that looking back, there are two different contrasting cultures, and I think that it's a privilege in a way to have experienced that and to have experience of both cultures. But I think there are advantages and disadvantages, I would say.
What a beautiful way of putting it, and I'm sure the audience is much in agreement of this understanding that you're not kind of alone, because I myself, for example, I'm a British-born Sikh, and I have an Indian descent. So my parents were both from India, and which within itself was also segregated into Indo-Pakistan as well. So you had that same differentiation. So there was a sub-identity kicking off there as
Yes.
well. And then when they were over here in the UK, us as a family within ourselves never really spoke about any issues. I saw myself as exactly the same as the host society. And I 100% see myself as a British citizen. So much the same as yourself. But I'm not going to suggest that there was never an identity challenge. Sometimes I always felt that there was, which society do I actually truly fit in? Because like you just said there, when you went to Nigeria, you felt a little bit uneasy there as well. And then when you came back over here, you felt as though you slightly felt out of place over here as well, which I think is commendable. What an amazing strength you've shown from within yourself, and also an acceptance of oneself. I would go to India, and I'm a foreigner there. And I come back over here, and I'm seen as a foreigner, even though I'm not. So how did you overcome this? Because this is the empowerment hour. You know, it's about assisting people to get over the possible dualities and stuff like that. Which is I'm just so in awe of yourself. It's so wonderful to have you on the show. By the way,
Thank you for having me. Yes, well, obviously I wasn't the architect of my destiny from that perspective. It happened to me, and I think you just have to live with that. I think just as I was beginning to get used to the Nigerian culture, I came back again and did my A-levels near the village where I grew up. And again, you're slightly different because I had all the people I'd gone to primary school with had stayed there and gone to secondary school, and I'd had this different experience and come back, and I was slightly different. It's a dichotomy, and I think that what it does is make you question to some extent who you are. And I'm not, obviously, if anyone can see me, I'm not mixed race in any sense of the word. I'm fully black, but then I have felt half of one culture and half of the other. Sometimes I think I wish that I'd been more of one or more of the other, or just fully. I think perhaps maybe I shouldn't have gone back to Nigeria, or perhaps I should have stayed longer in Nigeria. Maybe, I don't know. I think looking back, I'm thinking that there were questions. I think I did question a lot about my identity when I was growing up. I mean, I'm fully okay with who I am now. I think I'm a British Nigerian. I'm Nigerian, well, of British descent, Nigerian heritage. I've had the fortune to have lived there for 5 years, so I understand the culture a lot more than I would have had I stayed here and looked at it through the glasses, you know, from the UK.
From the UK.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely stunning. So actually what we worked out when we were speaking, this is such a reflection and conversation, exactly the same thing, kind of dittos. When we had Jossa, he was unaware that actually every single child that's kind of born out of maybe you could say a home country has this kind of a identity switch as well, where it's not as extreme as yourself, of course, and it's amazing how you've overcome it. So I really applaud that, if I may, in my humble way myself. But you're an experience, and you're an absolute true, what we call, in my opinion, you're somebody to look up to within this journey, and you're very inspirational in this journey that you've taken, because not only have you embraced that duality of identity, realization that obviously you've come from, in essence, as you said, you felt as though you've come from a background of what we classify as mixed experience or mixed race, but not truly. You're still yourself. So, if I was to walk forward a little bit with this and say, you're far from not being successful at what you were up to, and you're far from not being somebody who can really connect with other human beings and understand their nature, and that has to come from a self-identity as well. So we'll talk about identity a bit later, but please, I just need you to share how your journey was being. You went through, I think, from Islington, and you worked your way right to the top. So please do share.
Yes, so I started working off in Barclays Bank. So I studied then IPM exams, which are now CIPD. So I was IPM qualified and started working in HR and realised it wasn't really for me. And so I moved to Islington, started working for Islington Council, and they ran a training scheme for young people where they were temporary employees of the council, and then I helped to find opportunities for them, some within the council and some outside. And I think that's when I took like that to a duck to water, really. So I realised that I preferred working with young people and helping them on their journey.
So would you suggest that you felt kind of an adoration towards igniting other people as well?
Yes, I think that, when I was younger, I didn't quite know what I wanted to do, and I quite liked HR, and I liked studying HR, but when I started working in HR, I felt there was a lot more to me, and it wasn't as inspiring for me as training and development. So from the council, I moved to the college, City and Islington College. So I started working for a further education college, where I worked with people from the age of 16 up into their 60s, really. So supporting people into work, supporting unemployed people who've been made redundant, managing vocational training, and lots of external funding like that.
It's truly exciting. I think I love that sort of a journey in vocation. So an amazing journey so far. So in where you were at the end when you were working, because from my remembrance of yourself and remembering this conversation, you worked your way right up to directorship, didn't you?
Yes, in the college.
Was that within the college system?
Yes, I was I was a director for employability and employee engagement, so part of the senior management team of the college before, yes.
And so you were a kind of a head or responsible for procurement and actually getting...
Yes, so I was responsible for strategic partnerships and managing business development, so bringing in a lot of external funding, and so I managed what was then non-mainstream programs. So when you think of a college, you think of full-time students going in, but I tended to manage the courses on the periphery, so working with the job centre, working with people who are unemployed, who've been made redundant, and bringing in additional funding to the college to enable us to work with such groups, and also upskilling people in the workplace as well with low qualifications.
And was age anything to do with that? Was there a limitation to people you used to work with, or was it any spectrum of age?
It depended on the funding. So for apprenticeships, they were originally for younger people. Then from 2010 onwards, a lot of adults came into apprenticeships, but a lot of the funding for unemployed people was for 19 plus, people who were older. Yes, adults.
And so I have a lot of friends who worked in that arena as well, and they haven't been as successful as yourself, but they also had a lot of friction in the sense of the acceptance from that generation, the younger generation, to accept change and movement. Did you ever find any kind of this kind of friction sometimes, or
for within the student body, or
within the student body, within assisting people, and when you're working with the local council, for example, was it easy to get through to the children at that age?
It depends really on, some children are very focused and know exactly what they want to do, and others need a lot more advice and guidance, and they need to be made aware of what the opportunities are. They're just not aware of what the options are for them. And I think it's about taking a child's hand, a young person's hand, nurturing them and helping them reach deep inside them, and knowing who they are and what they have within them, what gifts they have. I believe everybody is naturally gifted with something, and is meant to do something with that gift, and sometimes it's just showing them what it is and how they can utilise that gift and where, and nurturing.
This is just, I'm not sure, it fits absolutely perfect with the audience that we're listening to. Most of the people who follow the Empower Hour. If anybody else is here and would like to get involved and ask any questions, Teresa, she's very, very open. She has also assisted in guidance towards their actual career choices and stuff. So that we'll be talking about that a bit later on the second half of our show. But back to yourself there with reference to assisting individuals and really igniting them. You're also a qualified coach. And how has that helped you to empower that next generation of individuals?
Well, I trained as a coach whilst I was at the college. I retrained in many areas, and coaching was an area that I was interested in because it starts with you. Your journey starts with you. And I think that in education, there's a lot of direction. A lot of people follow a path that's expected of them. But I think with coaching, I think the beauty of coaching is that you can sit down with somebody and help them to explore for themselves. I think it's very important that, as an individual, you understand who you are. A bit like me in my journey in terms of identity. So maybe a couple of decades ago, I wasn't sure who I was, or what I was meant to do. But then I had to find that place, and it's just helping people reach within and see what it is they have within them and what it is they want to do. And also that means sometimes identifying challenges and barriers, and tackling those as well.
So by assisting them with their blockages and barriers and the challenges, how to overcome themselves.
Yes.
Yeah. And do you find that faith, and in specific, I know you're a God believer, a Christian, a practicing Christian, how do you find that actually assists not just yourself? We'll start with yourself, and then maybe how it helps the children or the next generation that you're assisting with.
I think that for me personally, my faith has played a big part really in terms of my identity and helping me realise who I was, because there was a time I didn't know what I was actually meant to do. And I think that I find comfort and joy and immense satisfaction in helping other people, and it's taken 20 odd years for me to realise that. But I mean, in HR, sort of back office, calculating sick pay, maternity pay, and it didn't really do it for me. But when I was in a position where I could help people shape their future and their destiny and help them explore options and raise aspirations, help people to dream, help to motivate people. And I found that, that was it for me. And everybody should have that moment where they think, this is me, this is what I'm meant to do. And that's something I would do even if I'm not paid to do it.
God bless you for that.
And so that's important.
God bless you for that. Yeah. This is music to my ears, and I'm sure the Empowerment Tribe, who listen quite evidently every Tuesday between 7 and 8, are equally adorned to the conversation. Now, igniting another human being, another soul, to find their own gift is what you've just said, that everybody is born with a gift and their duty is to share it with other people. So that's such beautiful words, the way it's been put together. So as an individual, when you've actually, and I just want to touch a bit on the joy side of things, because this is about empowerment, it's about helping other people. Do you believe in the kind of like something that I wrote some time ago, and it's like a man meaning mankind. A man is not truly living unless he is giving. Now, logically, that could be a he, she. It's just mankind. So, do you feel a certain vibrancy when you really assist and help other people?
Yes, I think that's what I was born to do. Definitely. And there are other things. Otherwise, I'd still be an HR specialist. And nothing against that. But I think that everybody. And it's one of the things that I encourage young people to do is to find their place, and you have a destiny. If you're in the place that you're supposed to be, all things work together for you and doors open. It's just natural, and it's the way it should be. And you can see a person who's really happy at their job behind the counter. You can see a sales assistant that just is so joyful and happy at assisting people and working in that environment. And on the flip side, you see people who are in the wrong type of profession, and it brings them an immense amount of dissatisfaction and stress. And so when you start to realize that you're not getting any joy from what you're doing, then you really need to ask, is this what I'm supposed to do? And I think that everybody has to ask that question and know who they are and what it is that they need to do, ought to be doing.
I've got nothing to add to that. I'm saying this is like music to my ears. The reality is that every single human being, exactly as you just said, has a self journey, and they have to ignite that and find it themselves. Would you agree with the statement that there are basic people where life happens to them or life happens for them? And I regularly say, oh, you're a number 2 or you're a number 4.
Yes. I mean, there's something called a concept coined by Cotter called the Locus of Control. So I'm sure you're familiar with that. So do you have an internal or external locus of control? If you have a strong internal locus of control, you realize you're in control of your destiny and you shape it. If you have a strong external locus of control, then you tend to think things are out of your control and that other people are steering the course of your life, or they're responsible for your acts or your omissions or your failures or successes. And the idea is to get people to have a wider internal locus of control, because then it empowers them.
This is just an amazing interview so far. Thank you so very much, Teresa, for being here and empowering our audience. And I'm sure the audience on the Empower are much agreeing with it. I've got just to share with yourself, we're going to be back in 4 minutes. This is the Empower Hour show with Sukhi Wahiwala on Salaam Radio, and I would love to see you back, and we'll continue our conversation with Teresa. Welcome back, everybody. This is Sukhi Wahiwala, your host on Salaam Radio and the Empower Hour every Tuesday evening between 7 and 8 o'clock. Now, today we have been having the most stimulating and stunning discussion with Teresa Esan MBE, and we're going to touch on a moment as she's thinking that she's going to get away with explaining how she got her MBE as well MBE by the Queen's order, by the way. So in a moment we're going to introduce her back in, and well, actually I'll do that straight away, so we can talk with each other straight away. Welcome back, Teresa.
Hello, thank you for having me.
You didn't think it was going to be that quick, did you? Now?
No,
you genuinely thought, this is going to be forever. What am I going to talk about? Yes. Oh, bless her. You were so nervous when it started, and you've just been rolling it off as though it's like, get out of my way.
You relax me.
Oh, God bless you. And I think it's more that you've just shone and shown your real values with everybody else. Boy, has it been empowering. If you want to get involved, don't forget to please follow us or listen to us now on Salaam Radio, but also call into the studio on 01733 602 133. Alternatively, text via WhatsApp 07745 278 978. And to add to that, you can be watching us now on YouTube Live, and also you could be watching us now on Facebook Live. And both, please do communicate and connect with us as often as you can. If there's any questions around career, because we're going to now touch about what actually Teresa gets up to these days. So you've had an amazing coveted journey so far, but I'm gonna, if I may, I'm gonna hark back to a little bit about you've been blessed with, you've been recognized, your body of work that's been going through. You've been the director of a college. You've been assisting individuals to get back into their own careers. You've been connecting and identifying and igniting individuals to find out who their identity is themselves, giving themselves the self-empowerment to move forward in life. Teresa, you've got an MBE.
Yes.
How did that happen? The Queen herself has recognized your work and the body of work. That must be so exciting, humbling, and I'm telling you now, it's an inspiration for us here. Please do share.
It's really an honour for me. I mean, as I said, I worked in the FE sector for 16 years. I think I was only 10 years in, I came home, got a letter with a cabinet office on it.
Wow.
And when I opened the letter and saw that I was being considered for the award, because they ask you if you will accept it, I thought it was a hoax.
No, seriously.
I told my husband somebody's playing pranks, and he said, well, I'll have a look at the letter when I get home. And he got home and he said, no, it's true. If it was a prank, they'd be asking you for money.
Do you know how true is that?
Yeah.
You probably felt the paper with you and said, no, there's a hallmark here, lovely. It's definitely real.
And that was in recognition of work services to the further education sector.
So if I can probe a little bit more to there was a particular era that your body of work actually delivered for, the further education sector. Please continue. Which area was this in, and which borough or town was this in?
Well, I worked in Islington, and as I said earlier, I did a lot of work, managed a lot of externally funded projects, and one was to help people back into work. Mm-hmm. I can remember in the December when all the Woolworths stores went bust.
Oh my goodness, yes.
My team and I went around to the stores in London to tell them about the support that we could provide to them after they left work, and that was just on the cusp of the recession, you'll recall. So I think Woolworths was the first. There were many others after that, and there are lots of people who just didn't know what to do.
Mm-hmm. Sorry to interrupt you there, because I don't want to break the flow, but you did that out of your own good nature. I'm sure your job criteria didn't say go and stand at Woolworths and go and help
No.
these people back into work. So what drove that, please?
Well, I just couldn't believe, like many others, that Woolworths that had been there, all
Woolies.
of our lives, Woolies, I grew up buying sweets in Woolies, was going. And then I thought about, 27,000 individuals across England were losing their jobs. And we just felt that it was an opportunity, and I got my team together and said, well, let's go out and talk to them about how we can support them. It was very new then. The recession hadn't hit, so it wasn't, I think Woolworths was the first of many.
Yes.
And so that's exactly what we did. Over the Christmas holidays, our buildings were shut. Not many colleges opened for efficiency reasons over Christmas. So we went around from store to store and spoke to managers and staff about what support they could receive from the college afterwards.
Wow. So this is an individual who doesn't necessarily know
Yes.
they're going to be made redundant to start off with, and it's at a real poignant point of Christmas, which is the season of goodwill. It's like everyone's in there. Is that right?
Yeah, it was quite upsetting. A lot of them many of them had never had an interview before. They just sort of walked into Woolies after school, and I came across stores where you had 3 generations that had worked there. I had a store where a mother and a son worked, and you had people who hadn't had a CV, put a CV together. They didn't even know where the job centre was, and it was just not knowing what to do, where to go for support, or have the confidence. Many of them didn't have the confidence and said, look, I've been here for 10 plus years, I've never really had an interview. Will anyone want me? How do I put an application form together?
Wow.
And a lot of it was really confidence building and letting them know that yes, the organisation they worked for no longer existed, but their skills and abilities definitely weren't redundant, and about how they could utilise all that they had acquired, that experience, and confidently put themselves forward for other opportunities.
Well, you've clearly got commended for that, but I think that was a really beautiful body of work. So you're going to have to tell me, what was it like? What was it like going to Buckingham Palace?
It happened very quickly. It's a very regimented process. You get there at a particular time, and before you know it, everything happens like clockwork. And it was Prince Charles that did my investiture, and before you knew it, I went with my family. I think we could only take 3 people, so I took my husband and 2 of the children, and it was at Buckingham Palace, because they do them at Windsor Castle, all over the place. So we were fortunate enough to go to Buckingham Palace, and yes,
Wow.
It took me ages to get a hat. I didn't know what to wear, so I was buying things, taking them back, but I eventually got an outfit, and it was a really humbling and it was an honour, really, and to meet so many other recipients of other awards,
And with their journeys as well. The reason why I'm asking this question is because I know you're a very strong believer in identity, but also in visualization and actually being able to see yourself there. So I want the audience today to understand that these sort of things are attainable. You just got to have a beautiful body of work, and you could, being able to really truly touch human lives and create change in their world. So I'm sure many individuals who are listening, myself included, were probably thinking, an MBE, an OBE, an honour by the Queen. Wow, that's just never going to be in my lifetime. Does that make sense? So I'm really humbled to have somebody in the room who actually has that journey, so that you could make it possible for others to listen to and actually be a part of your journey.
Thank you.
Yeah. So identity. How did the MBE, if at all, assist your identity, or had no connection to it at all? Did it?
The MBE is an honour, and it's a recognition of the work that I and my team did, because following Woolworths, we went right into the recession, and I managed to secure some money to support people that were affected by redundancy. Supported people in high street banks, all sorts of organisations, from providing executive coaching to outplacement programs to retraining, and that's where most of the work was done, and that's where the recognition came from. And yes, it was an honour, but my identity isn't tied to that. That is just recognition of the work that I have done. But as I said, it's very important that you know why you're here on earth. What is it within you that you're supposed to do and to give back to the community. And this is my give back. So I feel that I have found my place now. And for some people, we're talking about locus of control. Some people just need a little bit of support, so they're quite focused and they're driven, and you give them a qualification here and they're on their way. And others need a lot more wraparound support and direction, and it's a matter of identifying where people are on their journey.
Yes, that's right, and matching them beautifully.
Yes.
So I already know this is obviously something that's very, very close to your heart and very vibrant for yourself as a person. I think it's basically a more than a just cause. I believe it's a part of people's identity ignition. So they have to ignite themselves and become aware of themselves.
Yes.
How do you manage to do that in the next generation? Because I know you're an amazing, what we call, mascot for the next generation as well. And little Dicky Birds told me that you even up until even last week were taking children who possibly had no understanding or even possibilities of visualization in their brain, in their world, of being at places such as in the collegiates, colleges like universities, etc. Please continue. I mean, you do a lot of this sort of work even to this day, and you're constantly igniting the next generation. Please help us understand. This is about the Empowerment Hour.
Yes, I do that through the church that I belong to. We have an outreach community, educational community outreach arm. So what we do in any community where the church is located, we reach out to parents and children to raise aspirations and to help them to dream. And what I've been doing on that program since 2012 is working with Oxbridge colleges, Oxford in particular, and taking people from year 7 at a very young age, introducing them to the university, letting them know what it takes to get in, what their expectations are subject-wise, why people of their background aren't there, why there aren't that many there, and telling them how they can get there, helping them to visualize. And we've been doing that since 2012, and there are young people that went in 2012 that are now actually in Oxford,
wow,
Cambridge, or other Russell Group universities. So it does have an effect. It's about helping people see possibilities, that see themselves. One of the year 7 said to me last week, there were 2 friends that they said, it was a great day, I'm going to go to Oxford. And that's quite powerful, because that gives them something to dream and aim towards, and to let them know that it is a possibility if they achieve, obviously, the right level of qualifications.
But the thing is, at least this is truly empowering. So it's about actually igniting and empowering that child. I mean, that child only last week, prior to last week, had no understanding of Oxbridge or Oxford in specific. And now, with your body of work and your assistance and your social work once again, you're actually encouraging that child to see possibilities in their mind. It's just beautiful to hear. And I think this also adds to their own journey of them realizing possibilities of why there are no mixed colour or BAME, etc., students and people within a lot of the Oxbridge environments, and how we could increase that as well. Not just because of what we call the private sector of people who are coming from foreign countries to study in both the Oxbridges and all the other collegiates as well in Russell Group, but actually homegrown.
I think that's important. I recall the principal of one of the colleges, we took some young people to saying, Oxford has been accused of being elitist, but the elitism that they claim is the elitism of the mind. We want people who think, particularly. They're saying that we're interested not in your colour, not in your postcode, not in your disability, not in your religion, but in the way you think.
That's your ability.
Your ability. And I think that getting that message through to somebody at a very young age is very important. We want you to think critically. We want you to think independently. We want you to be your own person, own your own thoughts, develop your own thoughts. And for a young person to know that, well, Oxford will be interested in my mind. I have something to say. I have views, and if you can instill that in a young person, and then they can grow with that confidence in knowing that, yes, there's a possibility and there's a place for someone like me, then we've done something
well
good.
Done. God bless you for that. And this is basically much the same as, if I can understand, it's about with neurolinguistics, NLP. We call this critical faculty, and it's a discussion where you ignite people's ability, children specifically, because if you catch early, then that's the best thing ever, for them to actually be able to just question themselves, just to be able to reason with themselves and move forward, and knowing that their mind is of not colour, should I say, to say it's the smallest thing of that. Now, I was just having this is a brilliant conversation, so thank you for your time as always, and it's been, I don't know if anybody else is increasingly enjoying this as much as I am, because I'm blown away by this, Teresa. This is exactly the same sort of conversation I have with my wife. This morning we were only talking about actually the possibilities that an individual would see somebody and they actually get blocked straight away by just seeing maybe the colour, maybe the brown, maybe the black, maybe whatever colour we call ourselves, or maybe the Caucasian, white-skinned. By just seeing that, have you ever found that kind of a friction in your life at all?
I think that is the reality. Unconscious bias exists from us all, in all cultures and all backgrounds, and that's lots of research has been done on a CV with a particular name. If it's a foreign sounding name, will not be as shortlisted as many times as you would if you were John Smith. That's a fact. However, what we have to do is to help people see past race. Yes, the first thing you see may be colour, the first thing you see may be religion, the first thing you see may be a hijab, but then sit down, as they said in Oxford, in terms of if they're interested in your mind. Equally, if you get that job interview, help them to see past your colour, see past your religion, and if you have the right skill set, the transferable skills, the right ability, the right approach, then it's for you to show them that you can fit into that organisation. And they will initially see those things, but then they'll see past them and say, well, this person can be the right person for the job.
That's so empowering for the next generation, and also the generation that we're in with, and older than us as well. I myself, as a professional speaker, broadcaster now, but more of a professional speaking nature as well, have always had a little bit of that, we could say, judgment, immediate judgment and identification. But I've never realised and connected the two things. So thank you very much for bringing that to light for everybody to hear. Help people see past your colour or what they perceive as your judgments. So beautiful. So now we've got a lot of activity here on Facebook Live. Would you mind if I just ask a few questions for you?
No.
Okay, so it's on
Do
Facebook
I need to put
Live.
the headphones
No,
on?
it's okay for a moment. I was going to read it out. So we have Amma Food Store, halal meat, a very good show. Keep it up. Thank you very much, Amma. And also we have Am Gola here. Such an inspirational interview. The world needs more people like you, Teresa. And that's just to feedback some information. And then we have Asif Rahman. Great show. What advice do you have for people who feel that they have not fulfilled their potential and might have missed the boat as it is too late? So maybe because of the changed circumstances or age, for example, so many people just feel this way. So what advice would you have for individuals who possibly, using the inverted commas, if you can see us in the video there, of being basically what they feel as though they've missed the boat?
Well, I like to challenge that perception, because who says you're too old? Who says it's too late? I mean, with the raising of the retirement age, you've got people working into their 70s, and so we're living longer, we're working longer, so therefore it's important that we keep our skills up to date, that we have economically viable skills. You're never too old to retrain. You're never too old to learn something new. I know somebody who at the age of 60 went to university.
60?
At the age of 60. So
Truly
I think applied at the age of 56 and got cold feet, deferred for a year. Then the university contacted her and she went back and did a degree in international politics and got a first class and was the only one in her group.
Wow.
So who says? And that's a 60-year-old. So I don't think you're too old. I think that there's always room to change.
So Asif, let that be a direct message to you from Teresa, who's actually a qualified careers coach as well, by the way. We haven't even touched on that. We're about to. This leads us beautifully into that arena. So there is no such thing as miss the boat. I mean, there's a 60-year-old inspirational individual, had cold feet at the age of 56, but then decided to follow through, whether it was the stimulus of the actual university contacting her, I assumed it was her, but she said her, and contacting her, but she followed through. Yep. So get out of your own way and believe in yourself, is what you're trying to say. It's never too late, is the message, right? So in context of this, I mean, just to give you another inspirational story very quickly, Colonel, as in KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken, in our age we would say Kentucky Fried Chicken, and in the modern day we would say KFC, had nearly 200 different attempts at failure.
Setbacks, yes.
And at the prime age of 68, started KFC as we understand it today. And today, as you know, how successful that model is. So 68, I don't think it's too late.
And then the interesting thing about him is that he took that recipe that he knew was a winning recipe to restaurant upon restaurant, and they all said no, but he persevered. So I think that we need to persevere. So now he has a legacy, he has a name that his great-great-grandchildren, he's left that legacy for them. So it's never too late.
And the inspiration for them, and the legacy that you're just saying. Thank you very much. And he goes on to say, so many people have just the feeling of resignation about their fulfilling of their potential. Now, we were talking about it's never too late to restudy, but how does one find their potential? You know, we're talking about, I actually talk about this in another arena, but this is your night tonight. How does one find the potential? And he goes on to say, what would you say to that person to cut off at their cut-off point in life? Realistic answer, rather motivational, please. So how would they, I think more constructive is what you're trying to say, procedures. As a coach, if somebody is in their space of trying to unlock their potential, I mean, what methodology would you use to possibly get them to find their gift?
Well, there are a number of things we can do. One of the things that I like to do is to look at what they enjoy doing. You know, what they like doing, for people to write down the things that they enjoy, the things that they like. And then there are a number of profiling tests, personality tests that we can do that help them to see what they're more comfortable doing. I, for example, like organising things. You know, I'm just, I write lists for everything, you know, lists on holiday. I plan what we're going to do day by day. So like that trip to Oxford you were talking about, you know, I just like organising events. People have things that they can do naturally, that they like doing, that they're good at doing. Then what are you interested in? What are you passionate about? You know, what are the things that, and I think, and the things that you're passionate about will give you an idea. I know someone who's made redundant from a bank and loves baking, and moved into baking cakes for a living, and he just needed a little help with promotion, marketing, and on social media. But that was something he did as a hobby. So sometimes your hobbies and your interests and your likes can be an indicator of an area that you could further develop or look into.
So that's three very clear steps that a person can take. So I hope that helps you, Asif, there. And now you're experiencing the sheer excellence and the brilliance of Teresa as she helps individuals unlock themselves and moving forward. And psychometrics, the ones that I particularly like to use quite regularly, is a psychometric called DISC, which is when you try to learn about your internal self. But we'll talk about that another time in the show. My wife, Parvinder Wahiwala, is actually sending you a lovely wish as well, saying,
hello.
Hey, great interview, Sukhi and Teresa, very inspiring. It's so refreshing to hear that everyone is unique and owns their own greatness. That's so beautifully said.
That's
so
a lovely comment. Thank you.
So now, if anybody is having, let's go one stage further from unlocking potential to actually having a career change in their world. Is there any small nuggets of wisdom that one could take? Because there are individuals who are obviously, as you said, you touched on right at the start, of happy in their job, and there's some people who have got a really high-profile job and they're just truly unhappy. How does a person get past that? I know it's similarly the same steps here, but what would you suggest to them?
I've worked with quite a few people who've been made redundant, and usually at the verge of redundancy, so they're under notice or they've been made redundant. And one of the things that has been common is that many of them have failed to take up opportunities to retrain. and I would say maximize all the opportunities that are available to you to train. I know organisations that have sponsored paid for master's degrees just because people have asked, will you pay? And they said yes.
So it's as simple as, sorry, beg your pardon there to interrupt, because that's such a poignant point. Just to physically ask, can you assist me in my upward ladder?
Yes, I mean,
powerful.
organisations will invest in their staff. You are their greatest asset, so they will invest to keep you motivated and to keep you happy. And especially if the course that you're identifying or the training will be of benefit to them.
Wow!
But there's a lot you can do online. If it's not of any relevance to your organisation, then you can retrain yourself. You can study in bite-sized training online. Also get a coach, having a careers coach, somebody who will sit down and challenge you and talk to you about possibilities and options is something that you can explore as well. And that's something that we did with quite a few of the people who've been made redundant. They benefited from executive coaching to help them get back on track again.
So just a question. We're down to our last minute. Can you believe this time has just gone? If anybody wants to get hold of yourself, Teresa, how do they get hold? Because you're a careers coach as well. So if not anybody, why not the best? Why not sit in front of yourself? And how would anybody get in touch with yourself?
Or LinkedIn, Teresa Esan MBE, or Instagram at Teresa Esan MBE. You can contact me
on
there.
Both of them there. Yes. So as tonight draws to an end once again, we've had an amazing journey once again this evening with empowerment and self-identity, and also the possibilities in life of actually being able to just visualize and see other people's journey as well, going to see and ignite the next generation. There's been truly humbling to have Teresa Esan MBE on our show this week at Empower Hour. This is Sukhi Wahiwala, your host. If you would like to tune in to us on a weekly basis on salamradio.co.uk, on FB Live or YouTube Live. Good night, God bless, all the best.